Hi everyone, welcome to A Stitch in Time. Today is Thursday. No, it's not. It's Wednesday. I usually record on Thursdays. It's Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023. And this is episode 264. Well, we're off to a good start, aren't we? My name's Carol. I'm known as Knits and Pearls on Ravelry, and I live east of Vancouver in the Fraser Valley of British Columbia, Canada. And I could go back and record all of that over again, but I'm not going to. I hope you're all doing well and that you've had a good couple of weeks since we last spoke. I had intended to record last week, but once again, life had other plans, so here we are. Better late than never, I guess. One advantage to going a little bit longer between recordings is that I have quite a bit more progress on all of my various projects to share with you, and I've also had 2 shipments of yarn that have come in this week, one just this morning, and so I wouldn't have had those to show you if I'd recorded last week. Before I do show you what I've been working on, just a quick reminder that there are a couple of make-alongs taking place in the Ravelry group. A year-long chatter thread called Another Year of Stash, and then a monthly make-along called the Yarn of the Month Club. So come on by the A Stitch in Time podcast Ravelry group if you're interested in taking part in those. First up is what I'm wearing, which is also a true blast from the past. I was going through my sweater drawers a few days ago, and yes, I do have more than one drawer that has sweaters in it, and I came across this tank that I had knit way back when I used to work in a yarn shop. I looked up the pattern on Ravelry because it's not in my projects on Ravelry, and even though it said it was first published like in 2012 or something, the page was created back in 2007, so I'm guessing it was somewhere around 2007 that I knit this. It is called the Diagonal Triangle Tank. It is by Iris Schreier, who I don't know if Art Yarns is still in business, but she is the woman behind Art Yarns, and she had knit a book called Modular Knits: New Techniques for Today's Knitters that I was quite interested in, and I know I knit at least one other modular sweater, which I still have and also saw in that sweater drawer the other day. I do not remember what yarn I use. The pattern calls, I'm looking at the pattern here, the pattern calls for a worsted weight yarn. I don't know what it is. I'm going to push this camera back a little bit so I can show it to you, and I'm kind of regretting that I haven't worn this more in more recent years. So hang on, here we go. I'll just do that and then come on and talk to you. All right, I'm going to stand up straight so you can see this properly. So here you can see the front and the back. And I needed to revisit the pattern to refresh my memory as to exactly how this sweater was constructed, because as I mentioned, it was knit using a modular construction technique. So it turns out that the front and back are knit separately using the same construction method, and then they're seamed at the shoulders and the sides. So I noticed that my side seams are a little bit lacy looking, and I'm not sure if they're supposed to look that way. It might just be a product of some poor seaming technique, but I actually kind of like the way they look. The entire top is knit in garter stitch, and it is begun here at the bottom by knitting a triangle. You start here, work your way out, and then you knit 2 side triangles onto the initial bottom triangle, and then the top is knit by working along these 2 sides of the side triangles. So if I come in a little bit closer and turn, you can see that definite diagonal line along each side. So I'm not sure if I can get this without being blurry, but with the yarns that was used for the original, you can see more clearly the direction of the various panels. Because this yarn is more homogeneous, it's just in the actual knitting that you can see the difference in the texture. So on Ravelry, this pattern is listed as a tank and a tee, and in pulling out my pattern from its plastic envelope, I found some instructions that I had printed off the internet for how to add short sleeves to this top. And incidentally, it was printed off in 2006, so that gives you an idea of when I knit this. And then also I have some hints and tricks, or tips I should say, as to how to knit this sweater. So having pulled it out and worn it again, it kind of makes me want to knit another one, maybe this time with some short sleeves. So not exactly sure when that will happen, but stay tuned for that. So once again, here's a look at it. I highly recommend it. You can find this pattern on Ravelry. So I'm going to get things straightened out here and then show you a finished project. So before I sat down to record again, I did a quick check and discovered that yes, Art Yarns is alive and well, available quite a few places in the United States and also some internationally, including several shops in Canada. So Art Yarns is what I would call a luxury yarn, and I know at the time that I knit this top, our shop did not carry Art Yarns, and even if we had, they probably would have been out of my price point at that time. But with such a basic pattern idea, you could use lots of different kind of yarns. I think it would look I'd be interested to see how it would look in like a color changing yarn. I think it would be pretty cool. All right, I promised you a finished project. And this is the Summer in the City shawl by Danny Sunshine. And wrong side. Didn't I do that to you last time? Here it is. This is my August Yarn of the Month Club project. Knit with a skein of Fiber Nymph Dye Works Sunshine base in the Zinnias colorway, and then the contrast is some Barocco Ultra Alpaca Fine in color 1201 Cream. So you can see just the alternating between stripes of garter stitch and then this elongated stitch, and that goes on for a while, and then you finish with this really lovely border, which is a combination of the elongated stitch and some feather and fan or old shale. When I went to block it, I tried to have it so that I could just have the border follow the curve of the feather and fan, and it just didn't want to lie right. So I ended up pinning out these little points, which I think looks nice too, but it wasn't exactly the way I wanted to finish it. But those points may relax a little bit over time, and I might get more of just a rippley effect anyway. So I think this turned out so pretty. It took, I think, about 1.5 skeins all together, so can easily wear it, you know, as a scarf, which is how I am most likely to wear it. But then I could equally as easily just drape it around my shoulders. There's plenty of yarn there to hang down and stay put. One thing I mentioned last week was that I was concerned about these edges. If I had to do it differently, I would knit 2 edge stitches as normal and then do the elongated stitches, but they did block out fine, so it wasn't necessary, but I still think I would like the way it looked just a tad more. But overall, happy with this. Definitely happy to finally use this beautiful yarn. I've had it in my stash for a very long time and never been quite sure what to do with it. So I'm going to bring it a little bit closer. You can see the beautiful pinks and oranges in there. And as I showed you last week also, my garden in the front is full of zinnias and orange and pink and even white. And so this just seemed like the natural choice for my yarn of the month for August. So happy to have finished that. And other than that, I've been working mainly on 3 knitting projects and my cross stitch. So first up for knitting, you know, this week, unlike last week when I, as I described, had analysis paralysis, this week I've been really focused. I've been loving all the projects I've been working on and making lots of progress and just really enjoying my knitting. So that's a good change. So first up are the Paper Wings socks from Helen Stewart, and this is a pattern from the Handmade Sock Society collection for this year. And as I mentioned last week, right now the patterns are only available as a collection, but eventually they will be released individually if there's only one that you wanted to knit. So this is yarn from Lily and Pine, which is a Canadian yarn dyer. This is the Day Lily sock, which is an 80/20 superwash merino nylon blend, and the color is Sandy's Beach. And as I mentioned last week, this calls to mind the cabbage whites that frequent my yard and gardens. So I have finished the leg. You can see the pattern is inspired by butterflies. I knit an extra pattern repeat because I like my legs to be longer, and then it has a Eye of Partridge heel, 2x2 rib up top. When this a sock is put on your leg, it stretches out even more, and those butterfly motifs are even more obvious. But the pattern, when it's not stretched out, tends to kind of almost crinkle, doesn't it? So that's kind of fun too. So I'm working away on the gusset using a 2mm needle. I'm knitting the medium size, which I think is 64 stitches. And so now it's just plain knitting till the end. And I haven't had a lot of just plain knitting time once I finished my shawl. Well, actually at the end of the shawl wasn't a lot of plain knitting, it was patterned, but I haven't had much need for just a plain knitting pattern, so that's why it's kind of stuck here. But I am hoping to get back to these socks because I would like to try and finish up the pair before the next pattern lands somewhere probably in the first week of September. I haven't looked, I'm not sure what date the next pattern comes out, but if I just make this my sock pattern or sock knit for a while, I should be able to finish those up. Okay, just gonna take a sip of tea. I just love this cup. It's a David's teacup. And I don't think to use it very often, but it's perfect for a summer's day. All right, I have 2 sweater projects to share with you, and I am loving both of them. First up is Owen by Jennifer Wood of Woodhouse Knits. So that's the, I know the printing is not 100% great, but you get the idea. And then there's a look at the front. So after much swatching and deliberation, I am knitting this out of Estelle Eco Tweed Worsted, which is 75% organic wool and 25% cellulosic viscose. You can see, hopefully it has some tweedy bits in there, red and blue and yellow. Not sure that they're showing up super well, maybe around here you can see. And it is a real, what I would call a blue-red. Although it does in some lights have a little bit of a warm cast to it, but it's definitely red, not orange. I think it's showing up kind of orangish in my Ravelry pics. It's so hard to photograph red, but it is like what I can see on the camera is a very good representation. So hopefully it's what you can see also. And I have been going great guns. So I am that far into it. So you can see the cabling on the front. It reminds me of DNA because it twists and then it has this garter stitch detail in the center of the cable. I'm not sure if that's picking up very well. Maybe on the sleeves you can see it better. Let's see, I'm trying to catch the light properly here. It is cloudy today, so I don't have a lot of sunlight coming in there. That shows you very well. So that runs down each side, partway down each sleeve, I should say. And then on the back, I have begun the cabling, and it forms kind of a triangular shape as it expands. So you start with one section and then you keep adding on new sections, and you can see a new section beginning there. I am knitting the 38.5-inch size. I've tried this on. I think it's going to be okay. I still am getting gauge. I'm using the suggested needles, which is I think 3. Where are you? Needles. 3.5 millimeter needles. And for worsted weight, that seems fairly small, but it's working. So yes. Now, this is not a project for the faint of heart. And it's not a project, in all seriousness, for a beginner knitter. There are no rest rows. You are doing something every single row. So you begin by just starting with this little neckband. You pick up along the neckband and you expand from there, increasing at various rates for the sleeves and body. There's no autopilot at all. And then you end up joining it in the round, which I thought was ingenious, the way that she joined it. So you would not have a clue that this is where it's joined. It's done during this cable cross. And so the join is completely smooth and hidden because there are no stitches to be picked up later. That sometimes when you join something in the round, you can see a little bit, especially if it's just stocking stitch. So I thought it was just ingenious. But yeah, you are cabling on every row, and the cables are not this, like, you need to be looking at the chart and doing something different on the front and the back. In some cases, like on the back here, where you're beginning this chart and beginning the new charts, there are increases that have to be worked on the wrong side in a certain way. Like, it's takes all my attention, but it's also very satisfying, and to see it just coming together so well just makes me very happy. If you notice, there's a cable going down the front, and that cable ends, see if I can, yeah, this picture will show you that it ends, whoops, in a little bit of a point here. I have begun that process, and the sleeves also, yeah, actually you can see on the picture on the same page that the sleeves end in a similar way too, or the cables on the sleeves. So when I was working my side, the pattern said that if you wanted to, you could, if your cable ended on a certain row when you divided for the body and sleeves, you could either start that chart that starts the decreasing and brings it to a point, or you could add another cable repeat. And I wasn't sure, and I thought, oh, I'll make that decision once I do these cables, because I thought it was just a repeat of the beginning of the cable chart. And then I realized, oh no, if I wanted to be working that part of it, I would have had to have started the decreases. So I considered taking back and reworking it, and then I changed my mind. I thought, well, I've already worked it. If this is an extra repeat longer in the front, that'll be okay. And just looking at where it ends on, I believe this is Jennifer who's modeling it, it ends about at her, what I would call her waist here. And just guessing or gauging from how this is fitting me, it's probably going to end around my waist too, with that extra repeat. So so I'm fine with that. And I will debate on the sleeves. I might add an extra repeat on the sleeves also, because if I look at the pictures again, they do seem to kind of end at about the same place on the body. And so I think I might end up adding an extra cable repeat into the sleeves also, so that they end in a similar spot. But yes, loving it. Love, love, love. And the other sweater I have been working on and enjoying so much is Killer Queen by Mary Annarella of Lyrical Knits. And this just came out 2 weeks ago, and I immediately decided I wanted to knit it and went and got some yarn for it. It's so funny because, well, for one thing, I've had this, every time I pull this out to work on it, I hear the sound of Killer Queen by Queen in my head. And then it did not dawn on me. Like, I had this little thought today, like, oh yes, so many of Mary Annarella's patterns are named using song titles or song lyrics. And then I kind of went, duh, lyrical knits? Did not clue in to that connection before. I recently, I think I had gone, yes, I know, I had gone, followed her link from the pattern to a tutorial for one of these stitches just to make sure I was doing it right, which thankfully I was. And I didn't realize that once upon a time she was doing a podcast. It was like 4 years ago. And so I'm currently just watching the back episodes of her podcast. And I don't know when she stopped doing it. She still has lots of tutorials on her channel, but I wish she was still doing it. She's a really delightful person, and I enjoy her showing different designs and things as she's working on them. So that's a shame that she's not podcasting anymore. Anyway, I'm using 2 different yarns. This one was in my stash. It's Cascade 220 Superwash Effects, and paired up with Cascade 220 Superwash in the Marionberry colorway, which is color 880. And it's a beautiful purple, which is not showing up quite the same on screen. This looks a little warmer on screen. This is a little bit cooler. And together, in real life, they look fine like this too, but in real life, they look even better together. So as I had mentioned last episode, I originally thought of knitting the contrast color work out of some leftover Heritage Wave from Cascade, and changed my mind. But I had this yarn in my stash, and I love, love, love how this is working up. So why don't I show it to you? I'm kind of at a sort of a similar spot. I have divided for the body and sleeves, and I'm currently working my second round of this pattern here, which she calls bigger bubbles. These are tiny bubbles, bigger bubbles, and champagne flutes here. So I'm knitting, whoops, garbage day here, and I think the garbage truck didn't like something someone was doing there. Yes, I am knitting the 36-inch size on this, but because this is superwash, the yarn is relaxing after blocking, and I actually, once I had finished the yoke and knit, I think I had knit this entire section of color work. I put it onto waste yarn and blocked it and tried it on to just make sure that it was going to fit, and it is. It's perfect. I was a little bit concerned that the yoke might be a little bit too shallow, but it's not. It fits just great. What else was I just gonna say about this? Was there and now it's gone. Let me think for a minute while I have a sip of tea. No, I don't remember what I was going to say. I am using, again, the called for needles. Looking in the camera, and it looks like these disappear a little bit, but it's just because of the yarn colors there. There, you can see. It works. But from back here, it looked like I was missing the little bumps. Yeah, I wish I could think of what I was going to say. This pattern, I think, calls for 4mm. Oh. Yes, 4mm, and then 3.75, I think, was for the ribbing. And I am following that. And yeah, it's working up great. So There you go. Fun, fun, fun. I have, oh, cross stitch. Just glanced at my notes there. That's a helpful thing to do once in a while. I keep saying I'm not going to show you my cross stitch unless I've made some significant progress, and I have. So this is the Autumn Bell Pull by Stoney Creek from August of 2006, back when I used to work in the yarn shop. And I have finished all the cross stitch on this M square for autumn. Last week, I'm going to go this side, I find that easier. Last week I showed you I had done the sunflowers with the leaves here, and now I have done the pumpkin and all the leaves. The only thing I need to do on this square is the lettering. So I'm going to bring that in close, cover up my face, and you can get a better look at it. So other than the lettering, this square did not have any back stitch. So it was very simple just to cross stitch everything. And I considered doing the lettering today and podcasting tomorrow, or recording tomorrow, but I decided I had a decent day to record, and I didn't want to put it off for another day. So this should be done by next week, and we'll hopefully have started on the final square, the N. It's been going on far too long. It's time to get that thing finished. All right, up and coming. I was thrilled to get an email from Lisa K. Ross of Paper Daisy Creations announcing a new shawl mystery knit along beginning in September. The clues will be released between September 5th and October 10th. And I can't remember if I know. I went on to the group on Ravelry and discovered links to where some of the kits were available, and I ordered from Sweet Georgia Yarns, which is a Vancouver based yarn shop. And because it's so close, it didn't take very long for the yarn to get here, and so I have put the box into this bag that I made for, well, honestly, I made this with the intention of giving it away, and then after I made some of these bags and mailed them out as prizes last year, I realized just how much it cost to ship them, and it just wasn't financially viable. And so this has been hanging around literally on a doorknob so it wouldn't get squished, and I finally decided I'm just going to keep it for myself, and it just matched the colors in this shawl kit so well, and it sort of has, anyway, I thought I'm putting my shawl in here. So the name of this make-along is the Secret Forest MCal, and I ordered the Midnight Walk color selection for minis, and then I ordered 2 skeins of Cauldron in the Tough Love sock to go along with it. So the minis are Tough Love sock, and so is the main yarn. So Cauldron, as you might guess, is just black. And then look at these beautiful, beautiful, beautiful gem tones, which I think will look beautiful on the black, like stained glass. So the, I believe on the website, these colorways are listed, and I should really get back on there before they disappear. Oh, gotta go check that phone. I'll be right back. turns out it wasn't worth answering, but at least it gave me a chance to warm up my tea, so it wasn't a total waste of time. As I was mentioning, I believe that all the individual colorways are in this bundle are listed on the Sweet Georgia Yarns website, so I'm going to make note of them, and that'll make it easier for me to organize my project notes and know, you know, which color is A, B, C, D, etc. So yes, cannot wait to start this mystery shawl. As I said, I just think that with the black, it's gonna look like stained glass. I think it's just gonna be gorgeous. I enjoyed the Mountain Musings mystery knit along so much last year, and I've also knit a couple of different cowl patterns that Paper Daisy Creations has put out, and just love her patterns. They are interesting both in terms of stitch pattern and construction, and just such a fun play of color. So yes, this is going to be, this is just, I just can't wait till this goes on my needles this September. What I don't think I'm going to be doing this fall is participating in the Stephen West Mystery Shawl Knit Along. I have, I believe, done it twice in the past, I think the last 2 years. And while it's been fun, and he's just thinks so out of the box, and you never know what's coming, I just decided, I think one mystery knit along for the fall is enough. And while Stephen West's shawls and designs in general are very inventive, they're not always super wearable, and I haven't worn the one from last year yet at all. And in fact, I am considering taking it apart and reclaiming the yarn and using it in a sweater. I haven't decided that for sure yet, and it wouldn't be anytime soon, but yeah, I decided I'm just going to do one this fall and concentrate on some sweater knitting instead, because I do have several sweaters besides the ones that I'm currently working on that I want to make. One of those is Spectre by Joji Locatelli, and I had shown you some yarn a few weeks ago that I thought I would turn into that pattern, but I've since changed my mind. Actually, one of the skeins that I had set aside for that, I am using for these paper wings socks. I was recently on the Polka Dot Creek website. She's a Canadian yarn dyer, or they are Canadian yarn dyers. I'm not sure who it is behind the business. And while I've been aware of Polka Dot Creek for a while, and I know I've been on their website before, a recent note from a viewer, I'm looking at you, Kathy, prompted me to go look at their website again, and I spotted this fade set and fell hard and decided that I was going to get this instead. So I'll bring it out of the plastic in a second, but this is their Canada Day fade set, and they are Canada Day colorways from various years that they've now put together in a fade set. So the colors I just love, and I love them together as a fade, and so it was like, okay, I am pulling the trigger. So this one is called Maple Leaf. You can see mostly off-white with bits of brown or gray and red and pink in there. This is a double. So again, same colors in there, just more concentrated. And for those who are not from Canada and or may not be aware of what double stands for, one of our major coffee shop chains here in Canada is Tim Hortons. I know there are some in the States. I think back east. And a double is one of the ways you get your coffee. Now, not being a coffee drinker, I think it's like 2 cream, 2 sugar. But those of you who know better, please correct me if I'm wrong. So double would be a very popular thing to order as you pull up to the drive-through window, or obviously if you go inside too. This one, again, same colors in there, deeper concentration. This one's called Bonspiel. And for those who may not know, Bonspiel is the name for like a curling tournament. And so as a curler, I thought that was very appropriate. And then finally, this one, which is a lot more of the red in there, is called Old Weathered Barn. And there's certainly plenty of old weathered red barns throughout Canada, and I'm sure throughout the United States too. But look how gorgeous they look together. So they will be going in this order from light to dark. This is the classic sock, which is a 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon, with a very generous 463 yards to 100 grams. So look for that coming up too. Yeah. So many things I want to make, and you know, only a limited amount of time. Which brings me to what's been going on this week in my life. So as I had mentioned, I had planned to record last week, but then it turned out that I looked after our younger granddaughter 3 days last week instead of the one that I had been anticipating. And she ended up staying over one of those nights and going into the next day here. So definitely I get less done, both in terms of crafting and in terms of just, you know, household jobs, etc. Mind you, one morning she enthusiastically vacuumed the kitchen and bathroom floors, and I was able to wash them. So that was a huge help. She's still at that age, she's 8, where she enjoys some aspects of housework. At the same time, she will complain about emptying the dishwasher at home, so it doesn't expand to all household chores, but she does like to help out. So we had a lot of fun together. She had brought over the first day a couple of new to me toys, and I think new to her in that her older brother had handed them down. So one was like a rocket launcher, which you have a pump, sort of like what you'd use for an air mattress, the little foot pump manual one. And you put a little rocket on the end of this contraption and you jump on or step on this pump and the rocket goes up in the air. So had fun with that. And also another was, I don't know how to explain them, little rubber, sort of like a tube type of thing. Not exactly a tube, but a cylindrical kind of shape. And you threw them and they would suction cup to the floor or other things if they landed properly. So I think there was one little one. The point I think was to land closest and upright, and then you'd get a point. We just played that if it landed upright, you got a point, and you played to 21. So our kitchen floor was perfect for that. And so we played that a few times over the few days that she was here. And then she kind of rediscovered the Wii. So we have one especially, we have one game CD from when our kids were at home called the Sports, I think it's the Wii Sports Resort. So it has lots of different choices, and she really enjoyed that. the wakeboarding in particular and the skydiving. And so she mostly, but I also took some turns at that. And it was quite funny because when she went to do the wakeboarding for the first time, she beat my husband's score, and she thought this was just the bomb. And she's like, oh, he's gonna be so upset when I, tell him I beat him and all that. And honestly, he didn't even remember ever playing it and getting a score. But I kind of texted him like, she's gonna, get after you about that, so play along. And then so then they played together later on, and he ended up beating her high score. She was not impressed, and then she could not beat it again. So she went to bed a little bit cranky about that night, because she'd been playing it just before bedtime. Although I think she's over now. Anyway, it was fun. Just gonna see what else is in my notes here. Well, it's been hot. That was the other thing. Once I had a couple of days free, it was very hot here, and then it was smoky, and it just wasn't really conducive new word, to recording. Plus my son brought over a new to me computer, a desktop computer. Mine is so old and running out of space and running slow, and he was able to get his hands on a used one that's still much newer than mine and in much better shape. So I am in the process of moving files to an external hard drive so that I can then copy them onto my new computer. And originally that process was extremely slow. I ended up having to get a different external hard drive thing, and now they're moving much more quickly, except they only move when I actually get them to move, and I have not been focused on that for the last few days. I need to get back to that so that I can actually get this new computer set up and start using it. But it will be nicer to have that. I also have a kind of like a small laptop too, but it's also getting very full, and that's what I use to edit the podcast on. And I always have to end up deleting things every time before I can have enough memory, or whatever you call it, to process the podcast each week. So I will be able to move a lot of files off of that computer onto my new one and free up more space on it too. So it's a process. You may have heard, because I know it's made international news, we've had some terrible fires burning here in British Columbia this last week. I know I mentioned last episode I was talking about the wildfires in Maui, and then we ended up with some interface fires here. And there have been quite a number of homes and structures lost, very sadly, to these wildfires. There have been mass evacuation orders, like thousands of people, tens of thousands of people at once. The good news is that the fires that were affecting a couple of areas in particular are if not fully contained, or they're getting a handle on them. The structures aren't in the same danger, but then there are some in other areas where there are still evacuation orders in place. And anyway, it's been a terrible week for our province as far as fires go. And just watching the news, you just feel so heartbroken for the people who've been displaced, and especially for those who've lost their homes. So my heart goes out to all of them. It has resulted in some smoky skies. In various parts of the province, we've experienced them here ourselves. Thankfully, we have a couple of days of respite before apparently the air currents are gonna turn around again and bring it back to the coast here. So I'm enjoying some clear air while I can. Unfortunately, it was very, very smoky on Sunday, and our city had its annual air show, and we live right near the airport, and it was kind of mid-afternoon, and I saw a lot of traffic going along our street, which our block is always blocked off to regular traffic during the air show time. And all of a sudden there was a lot of traffic leading away from the airport, and then it dawned on me I hadn't heard any planes flying, and sure enough it was too smoky for the planes to fly. And finally, I guess mid-afternoon, an hour or two past when they should have been flying, it became apparent that it wasn't going to happen, and so people were leaving the air show. So it's a shame. It's a free admission, which is amazing, but I feel for the different, food truck vendors and volunteers and all the pilots to, put their time and expenses into this, that it wasn't more successful for them. That's a shame. The reason I did more babysitting last week is because our older granddaughter got a second job. She graduated from high school this year, and she's been working at one part-time job. Now she's taken on a second one, and so she wasn't free to look after her little sister. This week I don't have to worry about it because our daughter's family is up at the cabin for the week, and actually our older granddaughter is going to come for dinner after work tonight, just because her family is away, and we thought she might enjoy having supper here. And we kind of threw around some ideas for the menu, and we're doing homemade macaroni and cheese, which is one of her favorites, so she's excited about that, and so is my husband because he loves it too. So most likely I will not be recording next week. I'm not expecting to do any childcare, although there's a chance. I think they've made other arrangements, but later in the week my husband and I are going to be going up to our family cabin, and then our younger son and his girlfriend are also going, and with them will be his girlfriend's parents. And so that'll give us a chance to get to know them better. We have met each of her mom and dad, but separately, and so will give us a chance to get to know them better. It'll also give us a chance to get away. So I know I'll be busy packing and prepping and all that. So I am not going to want to put it takes me a good chunk of a day in order to get this, an episode out, and I just won't have that extra day. And then the following week, my husband is most likely going to be working out of town again. So we're talking about him going straight from the cabin to there and having me come with him and stay there for a few days with him. And I can go for walks and do knitting and stuff during the day while he's working, and then we can have some time together in the evenings. So that's the plan. So then he is supposed to go on a golf weekend after that, and so if all goes as planned, I will most likely then record while he's away. There's also a chance that I could record like in the hotel room while I'm there. That's that's a possibility. Depends how much I bring with me in terms of knitting projects and stuff. So we'll see. But I'm sort of aiming for not this coming weekend. Sorry, not this coming weekend, because it's already almost here. Not the next one, but the one after. I'm hoping somewhere in that time period to have another episode out. Once again, there is an advantage in that it gives me time to make progress on things, and so hopefully it's more entertaining when you finally get another episode. On the other hand, it means they're longer because it usually takes me longer to get through all the projects. So it's a kind of one of these 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. It takes longer to record, longer to edit, etc. Also, show notes, all that stuff. But okay, something good. So not this past Saturday, the Saturday before that, my daughter-in-law came over for some knitting help. Well, she came to help me see if I could revive my dead iPad, which unfortunately didn't happen, so I'm going to have to take that into a shop. But she also needed some help with her vest that she's knitting. This is the first garment that she's ever knit, and I've been helping her out along the way. Unfortunately, she didn't choose a very beginner-friendly pattern. While the knitting itself is very simple, it's just a plain rib with a stockinette body and a V-neck, I think. It's knit flat back and forth. It's knit in a way that they assume you know what you're doing. Things like, increase evenly across the row instead of telling you specifically where to increase stitches, or when it's for the waist shaping, how to increase and decrease stitches along the edges. They just say to increase or decrease at each end. They don't really tell you how to do it. So I've been kind of helping her through that. And she is just about finished the back and ready to cast on the front. She's fearless, which I totally admire, and I had said to her I could rewrite this if you want to turn it into in the round pattern, and she's like, nope, that's fine. And then she'll learn to seam and all of that. So it's like, way to go. I do admire that, and she's really enjoying it. Actually, the yarn she's using is similar colors and not quite the same as this, but a really similar looking yarn. We realized that when she was over. So while she was here, I pulled out some old couple of vests and some sweaters that I have just not been wearing. I knit a lot of these back when I used to work at the yarn shop, so that's back I think I was there something like 2003 to 2008. I think that was the time period. So a lot of these sweaters, they either don't fit me anymore, or I don't like the style, or for whatever reason, I just don't wear them. So she was thrilled to take them off my hands. And then our son and his girlfriend stopped by for a short time while she was still here, and was able to give away another sweater, one that Stephanie hadn't wanted. I was able to pass on to our son's girlfriend. So it was good. Emptied out some space in my drawers, and in order to make room for some new sweaters. So win-win. I do need to go through and really go through those drawers and pull out everything that I'm just not wearing, and I suspect I'll be able to give away a few more. One that I was really happy that fit Stephanie and she was happy to take was a Carol Feller mystery sweater that I had knit a few years ago. Beautiful sweater, really liked the yarn, liked how it turned out, but it was soon after we'd gotten our new front-loading washing machine, And I was used to being able in our top loader to soak a sweater and then just put it in the spin cycle briefly to get rid of the excess water. And I did it with this sweater and it felted it. And it just became just too small for me. And anyway, it fit Stephanie and she was happy to take it. So I'm glad, because I've been trying to give that one away for a while. So always happy to pass those things on and give them new life. Speaking of, if you're watching last episode, you will remember the orange Cascade 220 that I was using to knit the sweater I'm now using this yarn for. And I had somebody offer to take it off my hands, and I happily sent it to them. As I said, I was planning to donate it anyway. It had been stored separately from my regular stash for a while, and I had tried to give it away before, and the knitters in my life weren't interested, and so I was just going to donate it, and so I was happy to send it to a new home and give it new life. So that was also good. So it's that, you know, reuse, recycle. It's a good thing, right? Anyway, that is it for me today. So I won't see you again for at least a couple weeks. So take care until then. Stay safe. Fire season's not over yet. And then, oh, how could I not mention the torrential rain in the southwest United States on top of it. I mean, it's these crazy weather patterns, they just, you know, it's real. It's real. It's all these things all the scientists talked about are coming to pass, and it's a wee bit scary, don't you think? Anyway, I don't want to end on a low note. Take care of yourselves. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again in 2 to 3 weeks. Bye for now.